What my sound preferences are. I like bass. And if it can have quantity and quality, yeah, I'm rocking it. Especially mid bass. I like the slam over the sub bass rumble. I like my mids super clean. Not a big fan of overly colored, overly thick, overly warm mids. Not a big fan of that mix. And highs that are very sweet and seem to be able to keep up without ever being overbearing or in your face. So
it's real.
here's one for you, a quick and dirty one. Again, in my videos, I gotta get that dirty one in there somewhere. TRN Medusa. A lot of people talking about this one, including myself, for various reasons. Big conversation over in HeadFi. Is it because it's different? It looks different? It's got a unique look to it? Looks like a jellyfish? What's the dealio? Is it different because it's got a 12mm dynamic driver? Maybe. You don't see that many diamond-like carbon dynamic drivers, especially in 12mm. It's got a triple chamber structure design. There is no doubt. It does look funky. And this new TRN cable called the Sea Serpent. The red chain is one of my favorite modular cables. I really like that little cable. And this one is the same. A little bit different in the fact that they have 5 pins. And in the promo videos, which was kind of interesting, it shows that only the microphone version has 5 pins. So I don't know. So then you really can't use this with your. Well, maybe you can. I actually haven't tried it. Use it with the 4-pin red chain. Anyway, these little bad boys come with a kind of a clear. I don't think it's resin. I think it's just kind of thermal plastic. And their shell is glued together. Part of the conversation that I was having was I thought the fit and finish was not so great. I mean, I have some pictures, but really you can kind of see there. That's on the inside where it looks like it's kind of chipped off. And the other part of it is if you're looking into this, how they've glued the dynamic driver in around the shell. If you look closely at it, it doesn't look good. These are $50 or $52 if you want the mic version. Not like the conch, where the conch was an absolute blind buy just for the cable and the case and the ear tips that all came with it. Even if you hated the IEM, you were still getting your money's worth. This one is more than that. Though you still get the little TRN kind of puck case, which is nice, and this great cable. It really comes down to should you put $50 into this IEM, and what is it going to do for you? Some of my observations in this journey in my notes, and I'll explain as I get on, but some of the things that I wrote down as I was listening to this, taking my impressions, okay? Mid sound thin on some songs. Fit and finish look a bit cheap if you look closely. Does have a nice wide stage. Female vocals sound thin and the timbre of the vocals are off. Bass sounds mushy and undefined. And I said that over on the hi-fi threads, and I got a lot of haters going on. We all hear differently, but this is how I came to that. When I made that statement, I was listening to Hokman Yim, Poem of Chinese Drums, like 10 minutes worth of drumming. And with IEMs, whatever gear, you can hear the attack, you can hear the decay, you can hear the drum skin resonate or not. And you can hear a big drum, a little drum, hitting the drumsticks together. That kind of details. Where let's get into that. Let's talk about sound. This is definitely a mid-forward set. I'll pull up a graph for you to look at, but we'll go there. I mean, it has a bit of lower. This is a classic kind of W shape. I don't like using those words anyway. It has a bit of lower recessed mids. And a pretty steep gain up into your ear gain into the highs. Plus 13 dB on my set. Standard hi-fi tuning is kind of what I call it. And it starts off around the 1K and starts climbing to 2.5 and then past 5,000 hertz. There is normally something called a sibilance dip, and it hits normally around 7K. This one is around 6K, so it doesn't really do that, though I don't find this one too sibilant in the cymbal crashes and hi-hats and stuff like that. Though it does kind of push up the spiciness level just a bit, and your tolerance to these frequencies will vary person to person in your ears. I was, again, personally okay with it, and I also have 50-year-old ears, so that could have something to do with it. There is a lot of information past 10K as well that gives the Medusa a good sense of air and brilliance, I think, too. This is a single 12 millimeter dynamic, and it has that much treble. And uniquely, they put a 3-way frequency crossover on it. So maybe to tame something, I'm not sure how it exactly works. I know how it crossover works, but I'm not sure how they did it in here, okay? As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a fan of the bass. As I mentioned, it definitely has energy down below, more than a graph would show. And it does bleed into the lower mids a bit, but my criticism isn't that. I think it's the bass sounds too slow, too monotone, too tubby. But that being said, kind of complements the rest of this tuning. So yes, I'm being a little bit harsh on its bass. I did describe the bass in another thread as kind of undefined, monotonish, sounds like somebody's beating on a large drum with a drum skin that's not pulled too tight. Listening to Hawkman Yim in those songs, you can't hear the subtle resonances of the drum skin. It just sounds like boom, boom, boom. I hope you understand what I'm trying to come across. It's not very detailed bass. Now, I was also thinking about this later. Am I being too harsh on this IEM? From critical listening, right? The critical listening standpoint, picking it apart. Listening to jazz and classical and listening to how piano sounds and really just getting the nitty gritty and listening to drums, listening to kicks, listening to the IEM with critical ears. Not my fave. And then as I'm driving around today working, I'm listening to some Cupcake. I'm listening to some rap and Drake, and I realize in those genres, Holly Cook and some reggae, that the bass it doesn't need to be articulate. It just needs to be boomy boom, boomity boom. Medusa does that in spades, and it kind of complements again the rest of the tuning. So maybe this IEM is good for certain genres and maybe not so good with something that would require more finesse into the bass. And you know what I mean? So talking about those mids that kind of have they're pushed forward sound, it does give a great sense of clarity and really works for female vocals, I feel. But male vocals, it had nice weight also, and we're no real slouch in that category, though I find overall the vocals were just a bit off, and not quite as smooth and natural as other IEMs in this price range that I've heard. And that really has to do probably with that upper mid push into that as well. I mean, if you're a fan of female vocals, though, and bigger kind of V-shaped tunings, then you will probably be a big fan of this one. I like the highs. Highs have a lot of energy. Didn't get out of control for me. And playing at higher volumes was fine as well. That's where I can typically tell that I don't like the highs or they're doing something that my ears are not liking, because then I have to dial it back down, right? I think it had, good times were had by all up top. Stage was actually quite spacious and did a very good job overall in keeping you engaged and entertained. Width was good, not terribly forward, more middle of the head kind of stage, and wide, average height, and kind of limited depth. That's kind of how I heard the stage. I think overall the Medusa is kind of a fun $50 V-shape with a unique look. Of course, it comes with above average accessories with the modular cable, the Sea Serpent modular cable in the case, and lots of tips provided. So value-wise, pretty good. It's just a matter of whether this tuning is going to be for you and what kind of music that you do listen to. Will also kind of determine whether the Medusa is going to play your genres of music. Like I said, if you're a classical jazz lover and love listening to the music, then you'll probably be too critical on this like me and go, that's not for me. Or if you just want to be entertained and boom, boom, sing, sing, sizzle, sizzle, the Medusa will do it great for you. That being said, I could sit here and compare tons of different IEMs. For me, personally, because I'm a bass snob when it comes to quality over quantity, this set's not for me. I would simply take the Keyfine. I would take the Keyfine Delcy over this IEM at the same price, all day, all night. It hits more of my preferences as well. So, doing a full review on that one, spend a little bit longer, and give you some comparisons as well. So I think that one's a real banger and a blind buy. The Medusa, maybe not so much. Out for now. Once that other one is done, just so you know, it might be a few weeks before you see me again because the dual SIMGOTs are coming in, the Super Mix 4 and the EM10 and the Da Vinci. So I want to spend a lot of time and listen to those and really get to know them before I share my impressions. So don't worry if you don't see me on the radar for a bit.